everyone. Today we're going to walk through a typical day in the life of a security analyst who has recently upgraded from Exabeam Advanced Analytics to our NewScale Analytics platform. Our focus today is demonstrating the outcomes and tangible improvements in your daily workflow. We'll be leveraging specific Exabeam concepts you're familiar with and show how they've evolved to deliver even greater efficiency and insight in NewScale Analytics. Let's get started by diving into Threat Center, our command center for triage, detection, investigation, and response workflows. The Threat Center in NewScale Analytics is designed for immediate situational awareness and efficient prioritization. In Advanced Analytics, you are familiar with watch lists and notables. In NewScale Analytics, these concepts are brought forward and enhanced. The platform intelligently surfaces these, allowing for us to move from awareness to action much quicker. The goal is to provide immediate prioritized view of potential risk, and these watch lists can be created leveraging user device tags for your entities, as we'll see later in our walkthrough. As you can see here, I have a particular notable user. This is still showing for users who are above 90 points of risk, sending if I had assets or any of my other tags on here. And again, I can create a watch list right from here using my tags on users or devices. These tags will be set up later, as we'll see in Attack Surface Insight, our brand new entity manager. Let's move on to alerts and cases. Threat Center is a large evolution of Exabeam's case manager experience to aid in the ease of investigation and provide tremendous information all within a single interface experience. In NewScale, cases and alerts are where risk is stored and viewed for case management and threat handling workflows. All risk is assigned to alerts, which then group with similar detections by user, host, IP, email address, or even rule names as examples. Alerts become cases automatically once the risk score of the case or alert goes above 90 points of risk, or if a rule outcome is set to create a case automatically. Of course, you can escalate an alert into a case manually as well. Now, looking at our case list here, we see a prioritized list of open cases by risk score over the last 7 days. I can choose to filter this list and threat hunt using our drop downs in here for using different case and entity fields to hunt based on tactics, techniques, even IP addresses, host information, user, or other types of rule descriptors. I can also write out my queries or even use natural language to build in my own filters as well. On this list, we see the Exabeam Nova Agentic AI case title. This is a significant advancement on seeing information about the case before clicking in compared to Advanced Analytics' static title of just notable user or notable asset for a case name. We can also see who or what is involved in the collection of the detections in the case. Clicking on the entity pulls up the context about this user from Attack Surface Insight. This entity context allows us to associate events about users or devices based on their different representation and coalesce into this single entity. I can see things like the different attributes about this user, the different representations of usernames and where we've seen them in the environment, and even their risk trend over time and the cases and alerts associated to pivot to if needed. Let's go back and dive into the case. Threat Center encapsulates all the information you need to perform your investigation stored in the alert or case. You, of course, have the ability to update the different case details, such as stage, the queue, and assignee, and these workflows can be automated as well. But when we dive into the case, we are first presented with the Nova Agentic AI investigation summary. This is our intelligent narrative that synthesizes the most critical events leading to this detection. This condenses complex activity into an easily digestible narrative, dramatically reducing the time it takes to grasp the severity and scope of an incident. This provides not only a summary info, but a full analysis and reasoning, and of course next steps to aid in your investigation. And to clarify, customer data is never used in the training of our agentic AI models. Coming back to the case, we see information about how the risk score was calculated. The risk score engine of NewScale Analytics has been overhauled in a few major ways. First, risk scores are now normalized between 0 and 100 points, which removes runaway risk scores from applying to your entities. So how do we normalize? We've introduced a brand new vector in our scoring engine for rarity. We've always had the concept of first or abnormal activity against the entity, their peers, and the organization. But this new rarity vector looks at the rarity of the detection itself for the environment. Finally, you have controls as to what adjustments should increase risk, not just from a rule score, but from high-scoring fact detections that are meaningful to you and your organization, and for understanding business criticality of the entities themselves. All this works together to create the score we see here. Now, one of Advanced Analytics' core capabilities since our inception is the automatic grouping of events and detections into timelines to dramatically speed up investigation workflows. Using NewScale Analytics, we've quite literally doubled down on our timeline capabilities through the use of threat timelines embedded into cases and alerts, and a brand new powerful and filterable timeline experience within search. Let's dive into the threat timeline first. The threat timeline is where we reconstruct the events and associated actions of the alert or case. This visual representation of activity over time is crucial for understanding the attack narrative. It's the Advanced Analytics timeline feature you know and rely on, but now embedded and stored within the case. The alert and case is living and breathing, of allowing additional activities to add to the timeline in real time and for late arriving events, both capabilities as new functionality not possible in our legacy Advanced Analytics processing pipeline. As with our legacy timelines, events are on the left column and any associated risk, reason, analytics, or correlation shown on the right. Again, as another benefit, the full copy of the log and all the event details are stored here in the case in the threat timeline for reference. A huge leap in our rule tuning has been turbocharged in NewScale Analytics, and you can access that workflow directly from this view. Clicking on the rule definition allows us to see the full details of the rule, all the use case information, and also allows us to manage the rule right from here. Clicking on this will open a new tab and take you directly to the rule in question. We're now in a brand new application called Threat Detection Management, which combines both the analytics rules and correlation rules administration experience into a single interface. From this rule I selected, I had the ability, of course, to disable and enable this rule, but we also have a brand new rule exclusion process I'd like to show. From our analysis and decade in UEBA tuning, we saw that the overwhelming majority of all rule modifications made inside Advanced Analytics were to exclude information from a rule to not trigger. Whether that was users, IP addresses, host name, file names, the list goes on and on. In Advanced Analytics, this resulted in having to modify each and every rule you wanted to make that exclusion for. In NewScale Analytics, we dramatically simplified this process by creating exclusion rules that can be applied to one or many rules. No more having to edit multiple rules to exclude your vulnerability management service account as an example. And if you need to make a change, you just edit the rule exclusion itself. Powerful logic and expressions are so available, like string modifiers, combiners, logic comparisons, and context lookups. And so once I create an exclusion name, give this a condition, I can choose to just use this one rule that I was looking at earlier, or I can choose similar rules as I search through my list here. I can even create the scoping across all my rules or specific rule families. If I ever need to make a modification, I just come back to my exclusion rules to make my update that then applies to the different downstream rules affected. Now that we've taken a look at rule exclusions, let's jump back to our threat timeline. Now that I'm in back to the threat timeline, I have a few options available for updating my case, of course. I also have the ability for running a few different actions. I can send all this information ad hoc via webhook or email with all the information we see in the threat timeline here. This can all be automated as well with our automation management engine. If you want to run a third-party playbook to take action on third-party technologies, you'll need our Advanced Automation Manager license. This replaces the add-on incident responder license that you'd be entitled to as well as part of your NewScale Analytics upgrade. Please make sure to see our Advanced Automation Manager demo and information to see more about how you can set these up. But for now, just know that you can come in and run these playbooks, again, ad hoc from a case or alert, or set these up to be configurable to run on automatically. Now, let's say we want to see what other activities happen for this user, or if I was on a device timeline, to explore the related activity beyond what's immediately presented in the case. We can leverage the power of our investigation timeline experience in search by simply clicking on our timeline button here. This brings us to our search interface, which allows for powerful ad hoc investigation. The familiar timeline view is still here that you had in Advanced Analytics and shows the same information that now that we've clicked from the case as what's in threat timeline from earlier. Only now we can see that there are other events that are shown in between our detections. If I uncheck our show detections only, I'm now given all the activity that's associated back to this user device entity in my search experience here. One common question we got from our advanced analytics customers in the past was, how can I filter my timeline to only events I care about, or answer what are the file names, domains, other attributes that I care about that this user asset interacted with during this time frame. Using the search summary in the upper left here, I'm able to use that information to filter my timeline or understand what are the unique applications, domains, etc. involved in here. And I can easily add this to my search to now create a filtered timeline of what it is I'm looking for. Now, in the words of the late Billy Mays, but wait, there's more. In Exabeam's new scale analytics platform, I can now build out timelines for anything. I'm no longer limited to the user or device boundary. I could build a timeline for just saying who all accessed this particular domain over my same time frame. And clicking search will build this timeline of exactly what it is I'm looking for. You could think of a lot of use cases here of which users actually touched particular file names, accessed different servers, all of this presented in and showcasing any of the detections alongside the event itself. So, how has Exabeam taken all this incredible capability of advanced analytics and embedded this into a unified platform experience? It starts with a powerful and formerly hidden capability from advanced analytics called enrichment. At the heart of advanced analytics processing was a concept to take parsed event data and enrich with contextual information to provide valuable insights and automatic stitching of data to the respective user and asset timelines. Now, this capability existed, but again, wasn't visible to our cloud customers. In the NewScale platform, we were already enriching some information like geo and threat intel automatically. But now in NewScale Analytics, we bring the full power of enrichment into your hands. Let's click on this event detail to see what I mean. When I click on the event details for this particular log, I see my full raw log and parse fields, but as I scroll down, I start to see some green checkboxes of my geo information, was there any threat intelligence that should be added to this, as well as other pieces of data added here that come from enrichment, not from the log or from the parsing itself. Again, unifying our experience here, this data is enriched for all ingested logs and is now available to use throughout the rest of the platform. In search, of course, dashboards, correlation rules, it's no longer bounded to just the analytics part of the platform. We'll now move a bit outside the scope of an analyst view here for a moment, but hang tight with me. To view these enrichments, we need to go to a new tab in Logstream called Enrichments. You will see just over 100 out of the box enrichments that came over and have been enhanced from advanced analytics. Again, none of this was accessible or visible to our cloud customers in the past. Now, just like in managing parsers, I can reorder, enable, disable, edit, import, and export, and create new right from the UI here. I can even see my most heavily used enrichers here from a 24-hour usage perspective. Again, enrichers is where the most foundational magic happens post-parsing to associate events back to entities and add other contexts like we see here around network zone information, geo, threat intel, as mentioned before. But for these enrichers to properly associate back to their correct entities, whether user or device, we need to have these entities built for referencing. User and device entities are managed in our new Entity Manager application that we saw in reference in Threat Center earlier called Attack Surface Insight. Attack Surface Insights takes in your event data and your user and device context sources to build entities. In here, I can simply search for my user devices just like I did in Advanced Analytics, with a similar field that we saw in Threat Center, with a basic drop-down view or an advanced view that allows me to use those different field values or just typing in the user that I care about. Let's look for the user that we saw earlier. Searching for Brioni from our case earlier, I can now click into her entity here and see a ton of great identity store information here. Again, whether coming from on-prem Active Directory, Intra ID, or Okta. I can also see the different representations of where her usernames have come from, her email addresses, and other information relevant for me as an analyst. Now I can also go back to that risk trend and look back over different time frames in here. If I choose this last 7 days, I can click back into here, just like I saw in Advanced Analytics, into the alerts or cases and pivot right into those as well from here. I also have the ability to tag my users, as we discussed at the beginning, to leverage in watch lists, search, dashboard, and detections. If I click edit on this user, I can give her any amount of tags that are relevant for her and choose the security criticality of this particular user that I'm on. Could also do this for devices as well. This is also in Attack Surface Insight though, where I can set up rules to automatically tag my privileged users, my service accounts, my executives, or similarly on my device for things like domain controllers and critical devices, servers, and workstations. Again, all of that can be referenced throughout the entire rest of the platform, not just limited to the analytics module. Finally, all this great information becomes visible to track your investment in the Exabeam platform and to satisfy your organization's use cases within Outcomes Navigator. Outcomes Navigator is where you can truly see the impact of your security investments. You can understand your threat coverage against frameworks like MITRE ATT&CK, Exabeam's use cases, assess your detection efficacy by use case, and monitor your coverage over time. This provides a significant shift from just viewing rule counts and rule triggers to understanding their true impact and driving measurable improvements in your security operations by optimizing your capabilities based on real-world outcomes. As another significant upgrade that NewScale Analytics provides, the Exabeam Agentic AI Nova Advisor Agent is used for full coverage analysis across all use cases and MITRE TTPs to provide a summary, strengths, weaknesses, gaps, and where to prioritize your efforts next. You can also chat with the advisor agent to get further insights or recommendations you need. Maybe it's about what's the next product category you should onboard to enable more use cases. We could deep dive into any of these use cases or MITRE TTPs you care about to understand the context Exabeam provides and the content you create and how that maps back to the logs you've brought on board. This allows you to not only track your progress over time, but also aid an understanding of where to focus your efforts next. This is great and valuable information for everybody, but especially for the security leadership layer, where you really are having to provide information about how you're satisfying your security goals. Throughout this walkthrough, the goal has been to demonstrate with Exabeam NewScale Analytics Upgrade, the day-to-day experience of an analyst is one of enhanced efficiency, greater clarity, and deeper insight. We've re-engineered our analytics engine and investigation experience to help you focus on the threats and cut out the noise. The security capabilities you relied on in advanced analytics are not only present, but are enhanced and integrated into a more intelligent and unified platform, ultimately leading to better security outcomes. Welcome to NewScale Analytics, and thank you for your time.